All right, so let's get started. We're going to start in Sukhasana, and you'll probably want to have a couple blocks there. Coming onto your mat. And getting settled there, Sukhasana, the easeful pose. And we'll use those arms alongside, lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, a little space in the hip sockets, a little shifting. Okay. And then slowly releasing with the arms, letting the hands rest on the knees, pouring down the sides of the neck off the tops of the shoulders. Inhale and exhale, letting go of the rest of the day. Just be here now. Feeling that rise and fall of the breath. And then evening out anything in that breath that feels like it needs a little smoothing and evening. And you might notice that just by smoothing out the breath, sort of smooths out the whole body, it smooths out the mind as well. And then we will reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Inhale and exhale, breathing those arms up. Inhale and exhale, breathing them down. Let's do that twice more. And then pouring forward and over. Inhaling and exhaling, expanding the back of the body, feeling those nice big round breaths. And then pulling those abdominal muscles back into the spine to unfurl yourself up on top of the sitting bones. And we're going to ripple, letting that upper chest lift. And then reaching long and forward and rolling yourself back up. And we will do that 4 or 5 times, depending on how quickly you're moving there, or maybe 3. And then we will switch directions, so rounding back and then diving forward, leading forward and up with the upper chest, or whatever the other direction is to you. Maybe you went this way first. And then we will finish up with this rippling Arriving back up on those sitting bones. Inhale and exhale, making a note of which leg is in front. And then we'll bring those legs in and we're going to come up onto the feet. So we're expanding to the forward bend already. This is why you might want to put the block. And making your way up, no rush. Let the heels come onto the floor in a nice deep round and bend the knees first. Taking your breath and then gently expanding the legs, pressing down into that block to help the legs expand. And then you're going to hit your first edge and just pause there. Inhale and exhale, breathing into that. We're pulling those kneecaps up the front of the thighs, big yawn in the back of the legs. And we'll take a few more breaths, easing yourself however deeply you can go into the forward bend. And then we are going to come up to standing, big front body yawn. And pressing those arms down. And then like what we did sitting, we're going to inhale and exhale, swoop the arms up and put a front body yawn into it this time. And then inhale and exhale, pressing down. Let's do that twice more. You need another breath, go ahead and put that in. Taking as much time as you need. And then let's take a circle front to back with the shoulders to interlock those fingers. And lengthen up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. Lifting a little more. And then we'll come forward, pressing out through the hands. So maybe a little bend in the knees. We don't need to do everything right away in the first 10 minutes or so. And coming forward and over. Breathing up through those arms. And release the hands onto the block or onto the floor. You might find you can lower the block if you were using it. Take a few breaths, expanding the legs again. And then we'll bend the knees and coming back down to the floor and back to Sukhasana with the other leg in front. Here we are. And standing on those sitting bones long through the top of the head. And let's take a twist to the right. So I'm being the mirror here. Inhale and exhale. Not that it matters because as usual, we're doing right and left. And coming back to the center, let's twist to the left. Inhale, lots of space, exhale and twist. And back to the center. Let's come forward and over again. Big round breaths. And then coming up, unfurling the spine. So we're going to ripple once again, letting that upper chest lift and reaching out and over. And feeling through the spine, what parts are still more challenging to move. We are trying to get a little tilting forward and back with the pelvis in this. That's often one of the more difficult places. It's fine if you can see me here, my knees come up as I go back. If that works better, you can let those knees come up to get a little bit more round back. And we'll do one or two more this direction. And then we'll go the other direction. Rounding back and rounding forward, leading forward and up with the upper chest. And one or two more in this direction. And then finishing back up on top of those sitting bones. And as we did before, we'll bring the legs in, coming up onto your feet and expanding into the forward bend, using the block or not. You can also have the feet wider. I forgot to say that the first time up. You can have hip distance, maybe even a little extra wide, as we expand into that forward bend once again. Inhale and exhale, still breathing yourself gently into it. And maybe this time though, with a little more deliberate intention to get those legs straighter. And then coming up to standing, big front body yawn. Resting those arms down. And if you're not at the front of the mat, making your way to the front of the mat. So you can move the blanket off there if you have a blanket in the back. And get your crazy cat lady hair rearranged. Okay, and here we are, standing at the front of the mat in Tadasana. Inhale and exhale. And then let's breathe those arms up overhead again. And this time we'll interlock the fingers. Take a little front body yawn with the interlocked fingers. And then see if you can find flat. Draw the abdominal muscles in and up. Drop the tailbone down. Feel like you're pressing flat against the wall behind you. It's actually, I think, more challenging to find the flat than the arched version of this. And we'll take a few breaths here, both squeezing the upper arms towards your ears and trying to pull them apart. And then we'll release the hands and diving over. Concave back, halfway up, folding over. Let's step back with the left leg so we're in our right lunge. And feeling that long line, top of the head out that left heel. And then pressing the tailbone down. So we're just going to touch the knee down here for a few breaths, keeping the hands on the floor. Maybe a little pull forward with the upper chest. And straightening that left leg back up to step forward. Deep breath. And we'll step back with the right leg. So now we're in the left lunge. Really pressing through the right heel for a couple breaths. And then pressing the tailbone down, bringing that left knee down, right knee down, just stretching into the front of the right hip. Maybe a little pull forward up the front of the torso. Straightening up the right leg, stepping forward. And into a concave back, folding over. And then we will jump or step back to downward facing dog. Here we are at last. And walking the dog or anything else you want to do here. And then finishing with that, and here we are in our best downward facing dog. Inhaling up to the sitting bones, exhale, pouring down the backs of the legs. And let's come down, sitting back in child's pose, nice long pull back. Coming forward into the Sphinx. Pulling back with those elbows, pressing the tailbone into the floor, reaching back through the legs. And really feeling like you're trying to drag the elbows back, drag the legs a little forward. And then we're going to contract and round up. We're really going to be hinging, but we're going to think round, just up onto the knees. Pull the abdominal muscles in, pull the lower ribs in, lifting up off the floor. Really feeling like you're dragging those elbows and knees toward each other. And then lengthening out. So the object is to do that dragging action. It's not to lift yourself up. So here we go. Let's do that twice more. Really pulling forward and back, making those abdominal muscles work. And then taking yourself down. And once more. This is one of those things where you have to put the effort in. Just kind of picking yourself up with the hips is not really, is not what we're trying to do. And then lengthening out. And we'll take a few more breaths here. Maybe your elbows will lift. If you want to move the hands and do a more spacious cobra for yourself, go ahead. And then we will make our way back to downward facing dog. Maybe a little cat and cow ripple. And downward facing dog. And then through the vinyasa, any version. So just coming to the plank can be a vinyasa version. All right, I'm kneeling chaturanga if you're coming along with me. And then we'll all meet up in downward facing dog. And let's lift that right leg up, reaching long through the heel. And dog at the high fire hydrant, bending that right knee, holding the left leg nice and steady. through to the lunge. And feeling that strong straight left leg, let's come up in the high lunge, or it could be the warrior lunge. You can use your hands on the knee or the thigh as well. And then coming down. And we'll bring that left knee down. Coming up in Anjayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And let's bring those arms around to interlock the fingers behind, rolling the shoulders out, lengthen to lift. Releasing the arms up overhead. And namaste in front. And then we'll turn to the elephant rider. Both feet on the diagonal, about 45 degrees, pressing those knees out. Maybe a little squinging in the hips. And then we'll straighten the legs, turn the feet to parallel. Prasarita Padottanasana. Drawing up the legs, pouring down the sitting bones down the backs of the legs, just like in Uttanasana. And then we have that other dimension of lifting from the arches of the feet up the inner thighs, widening out a little and pouring down the outer thighs. And then we're going to turn to the left lunge at the back of our mat. Pivoting to the left lunge. We do the same thing we did on the right, so it doesn't matter if you can't see your screen now. As we come up in the high lunge or the warrior number. And coming down, bringing that right knee down, coming up in Anjayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And let's interlock the fingers behind, rolling the shoulders out, lengthen to lift. And release the hands back up overhead. Namaste in front. And then turning to the elephant rider, pressing those knees out. And straightening the legs, turning the feet to parallel, Prasarita Padottanasana. Really working the legs. And turning back to the right lunge. And we will step back to the plank, vinyasa, downward facing dog. All right, then similar but different on the left. So I'm not going to turn around to the other end of the mat, just since we're going front to back, and I think that would be confusing. All right, so we're going to lift our, oops, I'm already confused. Left leg up. And dog at the high fire hydrant, holding that right leg steady. Through to the lunge. So we're going to take a twist here. Option number one is to take your twist down here with the hands on the floor, or coming up to the high lunge and doing the twist with the arms parallel to the floor. So figure out where your left side is and twisting left toward the rope wall. And then floating the right hand down and bringing the left hand down, bringing the right knee down. And here we are, Anjayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. Circling the arms all the way back up overhead. Namaste in front and turning to the elephant rider. And then feet to parallel. So Dana, turn the other way around. Yeah, you're going to come out with the wrong foot.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, here we are, straightening the legs, Prasarita Padottanasana. And then turning to the right lunge at the back of the mat. All right, so then we have our two options, twisting with the left hand on the floor right away or coming up to the high lunge. And twisting to the right towards your front leg. Should be actually the same room direction as your left leg was. And then we'll float that left hand down and bringing the right down, bringing the left knee down. There's a lot of left and right here. Let's come up in crescent pose on the knee. And circling the arms. Namaste in front, turning to the elephant rider. And so you can still see me, just over here. So. All right, straightening the legs, Prasarita Padottanasana. Nice deep breaths. Because now left and right is coming up again. But as I've said before, what really matters is one side and then the other side. So let's come up onto the hands. We're going to twist to the left first, just because that's the way we twisted first as we started twisting toward the front of the mat. So if it's not, that's fine. And then maybe you can deepen, bending the arm on the floor, bending the opposite knee, not the same knee. Switch legs. There we go. Okay. And back to the center. And then we'll go to the other side, lengthening out, twisting right or the other side. And if you realize you might be doing a different sort of twist than I'm talking about, oh well, do your twist with 100% attention and conviction. And then maybe deepening, bending the arm on the floor, bending the opposite knee. So that you're twisting toward a straight leg. And doing it the other leg bent isn't wrong, it's just different. And coming back to the center. Take a few breaths. Settling into this nice symmetry as right and left disappear for a moment. Turn back to the left lunge, front of your mat. Stepping back to the plank, vinyasa, downward facing dog. We'll try to squeeze the elbows back in your chaturanga. And then we're in downward facing dog. Breathing 3, 2, and 1. Coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And let's come forward into the forearm plank. So you can do the straight out forearms like we do for the Sphinx, or you could interlock the fingers, which is a little or even a lot more stabilizing in the forearm plank. Now that I've said that, actually, I think I'm going to do the interlocked fingers today for those who just want to do whatever I do. All right, so interlocked fingers are maybe extended forearms into that forearm plank. Pressing down into the outer edge of the forearms and either into the outer edge of the hands or into the palms of the hands. And see if you can find something of that dragging elbows back, dragging feet forward. Pulling a little bit more up in the middle upper abdominal muscle. Don't let the hands move as we go into sort of an upward facing dog, and then the pelvis comes to the floor in a Sphinx, keeping the arms where they are. Keep the toes tucked under if you can. Really reach that tailbone back for the heels. Because what you fear is going to happen. We're going to lift back up. So start contracting, pulling those lower ribs in and down, picking up from the abdominal muscles. Maybe even just let yourself lift a little extra high, and then see if you can find the plank again. And then come down into our Sphinx. Breathe. I think once more of this is plenty enough. And then lifting up. And finding that plank. And coming back down. And then we'll be in the Sphinx. And untucking the toes, uninterlocking the hands. A little bit more easeful pull, and just coming down, letting the forehead rest on the hands a moment. And then we will keep the upper body down here low. And reaching back through the legs, and we'll just do a salabhasana just with the legs for the moment. Reaching long, pressing the tailbone down, lifting up. One more deep breath. And bringing those legs down. Oh. And then let's bring the arms out wide to the side. If you don't have room, you can always bend the arms and do the cactus arm. So maybe you're going to do that just for a choice too. That's another possibility. And then we're going to do a nice flying salabhasana here. Reaching fingertip to fingertip. Keep those shoulder blades pressing back into the upper back. And gliding. Coming down. And let's peel ourselves back up to downward facing dog. Rippling along the way. Oh. And then we'll lift our right leg. Dog at the high fire hydrant. And optional waterfall into the wild thing, or just holding that fire hydrant dog. Oh, good. And then we will make our way to the lunge to the warrior number 2. And warrior number 2. So your back foot can go a little bit more, the toes out a little. There we go, yeah. All right, pulling wide against the wall behind you. So here we have our wide arms, a little from that salabhasana. And feel like you're dragging the 2 feet into the center line. A little more strength in the back of the right thigh, maybe. And then dancing warrior, anchoring the right sitting bone down. And then bend that right arm, trying to put the hand either the back of the head or maybe toward the right shoulder, getting hold of the elbow with the left hand. Inhale and exhale. And then from here into the triangle. And expanding out, tilting over. And reaching back with the left hand, we come up to standing, turning those feet into parallel. And then let's come over with the airplane flat back and hold that a few breaths. And then releasing over. Turning to the left lunge at the back of the mat. So really come to that low lunge, and then we will take that to the warrior 2. Turning the right foot down, warrior 2 on the left. Number 2. There we go. Feel like you're flattening against the wall behind. Little bit of resistance from that right side, so we're in the center as much as possible. You're feeling like those feet are dragging together, getting the back of that left thigh to engage a little more. And dancing warrior, bringing the left arm up. And then bending the left elbow, hand to the back of the head. Maybe you can bend a little more, headed for the left shoulder blade. And bring the right arm up to the elbow. Inhale and exhale. Send a little attention to your lunge. Just make sure that's still there. And into the triangle. Straightening that left leg, expanding out, tilting over. And then reaching back with the right arm to come back up to standing. Feet to parallel. Reaching everything out wide and airplane forward bend. Trying to flat back to the floor. Reaching wide through the arms, reaching wide through the legs. Long tailbone out the top of the head. And releasing over. Breathing. And then turning back to the right lunge to the front of the mat. And stepping back to the plank, vinyasa or not. And we'll all be in downward facing dog. And then we'll hold that downward facing dog for a few breaths, unless like me, you're holding your upward facing dog. Or you could come into child's pose for a moment. And then left leg, lifting the left leg up. Dog at the high fire hydrant. And then maybe waterfall into the wild thing. And making our way back. And we're going to the lunge, to the warrior two on the left. Wide and flat against the wall behind you. Dancing warrior, left arm up. And bending that left elbow. So another option might be to get that right hand up and find your left and do Gomukhasana arms, or just taking the right hand to the left elbow as we did before, and then try to feel that spaciousness we feel when we've got the long extended arm. And into the triangle. Inhale and exhale. Everything expands out. Reaching back with that right arm, we come up to standing, feet to parallel. And let's take a stretch up overhead with the arms, front body. Pressing the arms down to interlock the fingers behind, roll the shoulders out, and lift the chest to lift the chin. Coming over, pressing out through the hands. And then release the hands. Walking over to the right lunge at the back of the mat. And then warrior two on the right. And wide and flat against the wall behind. Dancing warrior, bringing that right arm up. And then we'll bend the right elbow. So whatever we're doing with the arms, it's always optional too. Maybe the left hand can find the right back there. Or you can hold the right elbow or some other variation. And then try to feel that same spaciousness that we have with the extended arm. And a big inhale and exhale into the triangle. Everything expanding out. Check that alignment of the left foot. Make sure it's going, or the right foot is going straight toward the end of the mat. Reaching back with the left hand to come up. And feet to parallel. Stretching up a front body yawn. Pressing the arms down, interlock the fingers, rolling those shoulders out. Lengthen up the upper chest to lift the chin. And coming forward and release the hands. Slowing down the breath, smoothing out the breath. And we'll turn back to our left lunge toward the front of the mat. Stepping to the plank. One more vinyasa or not. And then downward facing dog, where we'll try to be an easeful dog for a few breaths. Coming down, sitting back in child. And then we will come up and down to the floor. And let's do a bridge pose. So you can do the bridge pose under your own steam, or maybe using the block if you would rather, or any back bend you would like to do. And then as you're ready, lifting up either with or without the block. Inhale and exhale. So no matter what you're doing, looking for the more easeful aspect to it, the more opening and expansive aspect. So if you're in the bridge pose without the block, you can bend the elbows and take the hands onto the sacrum, sort of making your own block. And then if you are working on your own calming down, if you're on the block, you can stay a couple more breaths if you want. And then if you're on the block, taking that block out, and we'll all melt into the floor for a few breaths. And let's bring the arms out wide to the side, and we'll drop the knees over to the left. Reaching out through the front of the right shoulder. Or anything similar. Back to the center, dropping the knees over to the right, the other side. And also feeling that reach out the front of the left shoulder. And then coming back to the center and into Shavasana, sliding the legs out. If you like the arms to the side, or you can bring them lower, or you can bring them higher, as long as it doesn't feel like you're squeezing the shoulders up. And getting everything centered. Inhale and exhale, melting into the floor. And breathing back into your body, into this room. Moving the fingers and toes, getting the circulation going. Stretching the arms up over. Bending the knees. And then making your way gently up to sitting. Sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.
Well, you just decided to give us.
So here, let me get the stop recording.